Now, this ain't a cop out for white people. Okay, I want y'all to just listen, just follow me, because it gets to a certain point where history has to be told correctly. Okay, we can't keep telling it the way that it's been told to us, because that allowed black people to maintain this victim and oppressed mindset when, like I say, who is a descendant of who? Just because your ancestors of the black American might have been slaves, another black American's ancestors might have been a slave master. Or so for just for a quick second, let's break the illusion that we are only victims. Okay, let's just pretend like we're not victims. Okay, this story that we were sold that all black Americans, our ancestors were slaves, is a complete lie. White supremacy isn't just rooted in oppression, but it's rooted in the way the story is told. Only that, it thrives on controlling the narrative. But why is the narrative being controlled and what is being hidden? The dominant narrative, the dominant story is that white people enslaved black people. That's it. Period. No questions asked. That's all that was to it. But you guys, once you leave grade school and you start doing studying on your own, you learn that that was the case, but it wasn't the only case either. It doesn't tell us that Africans sold Africans into slavery. It doesn't tell us that many black Americans owned slaves as well. And I did get corrected on TikTok a couple of days ago because I defended freed blacks who would purchase slaves, because in my understanding they were only purchasing slaves because they were trying to buy back their friends and family out of masses direct control. However, I'm learning that that is not always the case. A lot of freed blacks who own slaves for profit. Okay, and we're definitely going to get into a series of blacks who own slaves. During these times, some whites, some blacks, some natives were slaves as well. Not only were some blacks, some whites, some native slaves, but they were also indentured servants. So you had some people who served as slaves, and you had some people who served indentured servitude, and they were able to work themselves out of ID. And yes, this included blacks as well. Really don't know. We really have to do the genealogy. I hate to say that we don't know. What I want to say is we need to do the genealogy and start looking deeper into our lineage and look at these other ancestors that we can call, because all of our ancestors weren't out here struggling and singing kumbaya trying to get free from slavery. Maintain supremacy, you need a group or groups who feel broken. You need a group that looks for you for permission on how to live, for permission on what to do, how to move. If blacks aren't being taught as a youth that we owned slaves as well, we also owned land, we also owned businesses. A lot of our ancestors were right in the ears of presidents and politicians, influencing their behaviors and their decisions. If we're not taught this as a youth, then of course we're going to look for freedom to come through whiteness. So we're not going to be able to see ourselves maintaining freedom, or I don't even want to say freedom. We're not going to be able to see ourselves outside of a victim minded mindset if we're taught that we've always been the victim. And I say this to say this: you can look at certain black people and tell who their ancestors are. You know what I'm saying? You have certain black people who have been literally living in poverty for generations, literally since their ancestors left slavery. They've never been out of poverty. And then you have some black people who just thrive in wealth. You have some black people who are very militant. You have some black people who are very nurturing and healing. You have to understand epigenetics, it came from somewhere. Okay? Who were your ancestors and who are you a descendant of? To ask yourself, are you a descendant of slaves? Are you a descendant of indentured servants? Are you a descendant of slave owners? Are you a descendant of politicians? But you can, like I said, you can really see who is a descendant of who based off their characteristics and the type of energy they bring, not just personally, but their entire family. There are some families who literally been living in wealth for generations. There are families who've been living in poverty for generations, and they are black. Why is it that some black people are able to have this type of revelation and others cannot? Why is it that some black people are so stuck on being oppressed and others are not? There is something to do with that ancestral code. That has something to do with that ancestral code in that person's makeup. And your ancestral lineage could literally have all of these. So when we talk about our ancestors are being back, our ancestors are back, our ancestors are back, who? Who? Which ones?